Before we begin, I just want to invite everyone to join our Tech Mob Halloween giveaway. There are different prizes coming out, one from each member of the Tech Mob. All you gotta do is check out the link in the description and in the comment section for the mechanics. Hey, what is going on, guys? Cholo Tolentino here as Titus from Final Fantasy X for Halloween, and welcome back to where we take awesome out of the box. It's a really cool sword, huh? Well, speaking of weapons, we're going to be talking about two powerful weapons that you could be wielding for your mobile gaming. That is right, we're going to have a little gaming phone showdown for this episode. Performance for both phones is relatively close, as we expected, with the phones only showing minuscule differences in both synthetic and real-world benchmarks. The biggest difference for the two devices is price, accessory options as well as configuration options, and ultimately, it'll boil down to the user preference. Cheaper option or more mature system? Asus has a more robust and mature phone ecosystem with a large number of accessories of varying usefulness. To be fair to Lenovo though, Asus is on its third iteration of their product lineup while Lenovo is on their first. Lenovo has officially launched its long-awaited Phone Duel in the Philippines. If you don't know, the Phone Duel is the company's first gaming-centric phone ever, marketed to the same folk that Asus is marketing their ROG Phone 3. It's only natural to put both phones to the test in our performance labs to see how both stack up to each other. But first, let's take a look at the design for both. Both phones use Gorilla Glass on the back and front panel as well as a metal frame for durability. Though design-wise is where they will differ. Lenovo's Phone Duel screams gamer from the first time you see and use it, which may or may not be your cup of tea depending on your tastes. Asus's ROG Phone 3 is more of the same, though it's not as loud as the design of their competitor. I have honestly been more of a fan of minimalistic designs myself. Except for when I'm in cosplay. A huge difference is the side-mounted selfie camera and the positioning of the rear cameras for the Lenovo Phone Duel. If you really want this phone, it'll take some getting used to. Both phones have front-facing speakers, customizable lights on the rear, but don't have a 3.5mm jack. Also, both have an extra USB Type-C port on the side to facilitate charging while gaming without the cord getting in the way. Both gaming phones have similar AMOLED panels sporting the same kind of tech. They both have a 2340 by 1080 resolution AMOLED panel. Both have a 144Hz refresh rate and a 240Hz touch polling rate, as well as HDR10 capabilities and fingerprint scanners positioned underneath. Again, both are protected by Gorilla Glass 6. The only difference being the Lenovo Phone Duel has a 6.65-inch screen, while the ROG Phone 3 has a 6.59-inch one. See, like I said, nearly identical. The only thing that the Lenovo has over the Asus on the display section is that there's no punch hole cutout on their panel, since the selfie camera has been relocated to the side. Both phones have unique features to offer to buyers with varying degrees of usefulness depending on the use case. First, Asus. The biggest draw here is the staggering amount of accessory options that range from useful to useless, though there are legitimate use cases for some of these, which you will see later on when we talk about the performance. Accessories like the Kunai gamepad as well as the ROG clip are great buys since they allow you to use gamepads easily with your device. But those are the only things that we recommend personally. For the Lenovo Phone Duel, it's their focus on the landscape UI as well as the side-mounted selfie camera for streaming. While it's true that the side-mounted selfie camera makes it way easier to stream your games, it makes taking regular selfies incredibly difficult. So if you're planning to use this phone for vlogging, I'm not so sure about that. Interestingly though, both devices have their version of virtual shoulder buttons that you can turn on, essentially giving you an added advantage when you're gaming. Qualcomm's Snapdragon 865 Plus processor powers both the Lenovo Phone Duel and the ROG Phone 3, which makes sense since it is the most powerful processor currently available in the market today. RAM and storage options vary depending on what version you get. But for the benchmark tests, we're putting the top-tier offerings of both brands against each other. 16GB RAM and 512GB internal storage for both phones. Before we dive into the benchmarks, let's talk about the methodology and the overclocking features of both phones. Both the Lenovo Phone Duel and the ROG Phone 3 have some sort of performance customization built into them for the Snapdragon 865 Plus processor. For the Phone Duel, it's Rampage mode, and for the Asus ROG Phone 3, it's X mode. These aren't overclocked in the usual sense of the word, as it relates to PC gaming for example, since you're not really pushing more current in the processors. Instead, you're simply raising thermal limits, raising the upper temperature threshold for the SoC before it starts throttling performance. This will become important when we step into gaming performance, but it's less relevant in terms of synthetic benchmarks, since there isn't enough sustained load on the SoC for thermal throttling to occur, at least compared to the gaming numbers that'll be shown. Let's take a look at the synthetic benchmarks first. As far as synthetic benchmarks go, both phones are incredibly close to each other points-wise, which is expected since both phones have essentially the same hardware under the hood. Of course, gamers didn't buy this phone to see benchmarks, they bought the phone to play games, and that is exactly what we did. We tested out Genshin Impact, PUBG Mobile, Asphalt 9, NBA 2K20, as well as Call of Duty Mobile on both devices. We used GameBench in-game monitoring and testing suite that allows us to see FPS numbers and, more importantly, FPS stability in games over a long period. Whenever you're playing games, FPS stability is what you want to see here, not how high your top FPS is. A higher stability score means less felt lag or stuttering in games. It's good news for Lenovo here. The Phone Duel manages to get more consistent numbers versus the ROG Phone 3, simply because their Rampage mode doesn't let temperatures go above 43 degrees. The ROG Phone 3 has a higher thermal limit, though this results in higher overall thermals with the system reporting heat as high as 50 degrees, which ultimately hurts FPS medians and stability numbers. This is more apparent in titles like NBA 2K20. To be fair to Asus though, they do recommend using the Aero-Active cooler that they throw in the package when you're gaming and when you're in X mode. That should address some of the heat generated. With the cooler attached, stability improves for the title that had the worst thermal throttling. Our testing tools ran into an issue when revalidating data with the cooler on, but from what we could recover, it looked like the Aero-Active cooler really helped in increasing frames and stability. At least for NBA 2K20. Asus's software also allows for more granular control when it comes to really tweaking the thermals and other properties. That makes it the kind of phone that you'd want to get if you're the kind of person that really enjoys tinkering. At a glance, it looks like Lenovo's split dual battery system does work, but you're sacrificing 1000 mAh of juice for those better stability numbers. Based on our experience, you can't really feel the performance difference. Both phones felt incredibly smooth and fluid when gaming. Speaking of battery, that extra 1000 mAh of battery comes in handy, as the Lenovo Phone Duel was only able to squeeze around 11 hours and 13 minutes on 144Hz on our standard battery drain test, versus the ROG Phone 3's 13 hours and 30 minute score. The Phone Duel does win in terms of battery charging speed, as the phone's charger is able to achieve 65 watts charging, but only when both USB Type-C cables are attached to the bottom and side of the phone. The ROG Phone 3 is only able to achieve 30-watt charging speeds, which is also not really a bad thing. Lenovo's Phone Duel and the Asus ROG Phone 3 have comparable hardware. But like anything, the devil is in the details. The Phone Duel's relatively tamer overclock makes the phone more stable but has lower FPS than the ROG Phone 3 in some games. The ROG Phone 3 meanwhile is able to hit higher FPS numbers, though not without the help from its Aero-Active cooler because of thermal throttling. While Lenovo does give games options for customization, as well as access to a better built-in live streaming camera, the ROG Phone 3 has deeper customization and more hardcore OC potential overall. For most people, it'll boil down to the price. The ROG Phone 3 is the pricier option, with the top tier unit coming in at 54,995 pesos for the 16GB RAM and 512GB storage variant, while the 12GB RAM and 512GB storage variant sits at around 49,995 pesos. Lenovo's Phone Duel meanwhile is priced at 49,995 pesos for the top tier 16GB RAM and 512GB storage variant. There's an even cheaper version of the phone that's essentially 12GB RAM and 256GB storage and is priced at just 39,995 pesos. So which phone is the phone for you? Please do drop a comment and check out articles on both phones on unbox.ph. Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Hit the notification icon if you want to get them updates when we drop the videos. Once again, I am Cholo Tolentino and I will see you guys in the next one. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. How do you do this?